Let's close out this podcast, Mark, looking at the top 10 tight ends that we have for our
Suddenly,
fantasy rankings.
The average fan is recognizing these names.
Yes. Now the average fan is like, oh, I know these guys. Like, these are the guys that I really want. These are the main, like, if you're looking for that first tight end off the board for you, this should be in the range of the guys you're looking at. But if you're on YouTube checking out this segment, make sure to check out 21 through 30, 11 through 20. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, thank you guys for kind of sticking on right through. If you're on iTunes, listening on podcast services around the world, thank you guys for sticking on through. But let's start with our top 10. At number 10, the Chicago Bear. I'll be honest, I'm going to want to start with him first. Trey Burton of the Chicago Bears. Then Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins. Delaney Walker at 8 of the Tennessee Titans. Kyle Rudolph at 7 from my Minnesota Vikings. Then Evan Ingram of the New York Giants right there at number 6. Jimmy Graham, the newest addition to the Green Bay Packers at 5. Number 4, Greg Olsen, coming off an injury for the Carolina Panthers. Travis Kelce at number 3 for the Kansas City Chiefs. Zach Ertz at 2, the guy for the Philadelphia Eagles, as Brandon likes to call them, the defending Super Bowl champions. And then at number 1, there was no question if he was going to be number 1 or not. Rob Gronkowski of the New England Patriots. And the guy I want to start with first is Trey Burton. And the reason why I want to start with him, if you're listening all the way through, in the first segment, we had Pat kind of mention Trey Burton in our Bears overhype segment of like, you know, this is a guy that, are we really overhyping him? Like, he didn't really have a lot of touches last year, and now everyone's expecting him to be something special in Chicago. You had him higher than I. I had him right where we had him at 10. Mm-hmm. You had him at 8. What's going through your mind, Bear fan, about Trey Burton?
Well, it's similar to some of these other guys that we've talked about, where Allen Robinson commands the double team. You have Anthony Miller, you know, maybe you got Kevin White, I don't know. But, you know, you have these different options available, and then Trey Burton's going to be there as that underneath type of guy, or, you know, you have a great guy in not Travis Kelce, that's where I'm going, but in Matt Nagy, where if you look at Travis Kelce, you have an idea of things they would like to do with Trey Burton on the Chicago Bears. So he's going to be a guy who's going to be available, and someone who is going to be that safety blanket that a sophomore quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, who partially is kind of still a rookie because that first season, he barely got to do anything. He played 12 games, but when he was playing in air quotes, because John Fox wouldn't let him throw the ball. So he's a guy who still has things to learn. He's going to want to take advantage of this safety blanket there. But the other thing with Trey Burton that's kind of nice for the Chicago Bears, and is the reason why in my personal rankings, Adam Shaheen showed up, because they're going to, I'm assuming, use a fair amount of 2 tight end sets because they have 2 good pass-catching tight ends.
Shaheen's the guy.
They're going to want to take advantage of both. Baby Gronk.
Yeah, Shaheen's baby Gronk. That's what I was going to ask.
Now, hasn't done very much so far for the Chicago Bears, but there's a lot of hype, a lot of potential.
Because he was a D2 prospect, right?
Shaheen D2. Yeah.
Here's the thing that I'm thinking, and the reason why, like Trey Burton, I'm the lowest down out of the top 10 tight ends, but the reason why I had him at 10 is because Matt Nagy's your offensive coordinator, basically.
Yeah.
It's Matt Nagy's system. If there's anything we knew from Kansas City, you could say it's Alex Smith. I'm going to say it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B with the system and the quarterback. The tight end is going to be kind of featured a lot. Yeah, you have Allen Robinson. Yeah, you have Taylor Gabriel. Yeah, you have Anthony Miller, who Bears fans are really high on. Last week in our rankings for wide receiver said I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being a top 30 wide receiver, although I didn't have him in these preseason rankings. Because of that offensive system, though, I'm like, you know what? Burton deserves to be here at 10. Because if Burton can be even about 40% of what Travis Kelce is to Kansas City, you'll take that as a fantasy owner in my mind and as a Bears fan for the season. And really it depends on the growth of, like, that's the thing. Like, yeah, he's going to be featured more, but also he doesn't have that veteran quarterback as well. Like, Mitch is entering his second year. There's going to be, I expect to be, growing pains as well. And that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put him at 10, being a starting guy in a Matt Nagy system. He'll be at 10, but I'd rather have put him low and be proven wrong than put him too high and be proven wrong.
Yeah, I think for sure, and there's a reason why he is, the last part of this first column. He's the biggest risk out of these guys in the top 10, but I think he's got a lot of potential to be a top quality tight end. There's so many other things around there. That's not even talking about the fact that there are 2 top quality running backs in Chicago. That defense is good, so that ball should be coming back to Chicago. There's a lot of reasons why he'll have potential. If you're worried about the touches or the yardage from the past, he was a number 2 tight end. He's getting a chance to shine now, and he will be the number 1 tight end in Chicago.
Well, and that's why the next guy, we'll kind of jump right over to him. We'll stay with this Kansas City mindset. Is Travis Kelce is at 3 in our rankings. I have him at 2. You have him at 4. Why do you got Travis Kelce at 4 behind Gronk, Ertz, and Jimmy Graham?
Well, part of it for me is Gronkowski. There's no question. Zach Ertz for me. The number 2 behind him is now gone. So hopefully he's going to get a little bit more. Also, this MVP of Carson Wentz should hopefully be there for 16 games.
Or Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles.
Exactly. Or Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles. But during the regular season, Nick Foles, not so good. So, having Carson Wentz back should improve Zach Ertz even further. We'll talk about Jimmy Graham, but I have high hopes for him. The thing for Travis Kelce, for me, that put him down, because without a doubt, if Alex Smith was there, we are exactly on the same page for probably our top 5.
That he would be, if Alex Smith was there, he'd be number 2.
4. Yeah. That Travis Kelce would be my number 2. But Patrick Mahomes is a new guy. Sure, he played a game, and he played in the preseason. And he looked decent in the preseason, decent in the regular season game he played. But he's got a lot of things to learn. The offensive coordinator is gone. There's a new offensive coordinator in Kansas City. So there are a lot of things to learn, a lot of new things to adapt to. We don't know if Patrick Mahomes is going to be as good as people are hoping. And there were 3 big names taken in that draft: Deshaun Watson, Mitch Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes. 2 of them look like they're good so far. Will all 3 be good? Statistically, probably not.
And I keep throwing this out here since I learned it from the DP show when he was on, but Patrick Mahomes was the guy that the Saints almost traded up for, but the Chiefs just sniped him and did it first.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how highly touted he was even coming out of college.
But as a guy you can stash behind and let learn.
Yeah.
The big question is going to be...
They have Drew Brees.
Exactly. And they had Alex Smith. The big question is going to be for Patrick Mahomes is, was 1 year enough in his development? And he's got a great advantage of having Andy Reid as a coach. That guy can coach some quarterbacks. So that's why I deducted Travis Kelce a little bit, just not because I think he's going to be bad or anything, but I just think that there's a little bit of a question mark that makes me say, maybe I go with a Jimmy Graham instead because Aaron Rodgers is his quarterback.
See, and to me, I'm on the complete other side of Travis Kelce is still the if de facto number 2 tight end in my mind when it comes to fantasy, because yes, Matt Nagy left, but when it comes to Kansas City, from hearing Nagy talk and hearing interviews, it doesn't sound like to me that, all right, Nagy was his own mind, he had his own system. Now that he's gone, we're going to get a new complete system. Basically how I feel it is, it's Andy Reid's system. I'm just bringing in my next pupil. I am bringing in my next mind that I am going to mold into this position, where really the offensive concept stays the same, but it's
for the most part, you're going to get a little different variation on it.
But is Andy Reid going to be calling the plays? Is the OC of Eric Bieniemy, I think I said that right, is he going to be calling the plays, what's
Andy
going to be
Reid
going
typically
on.
calls plays.
Well, and
so
I mean, he
should be
gave
the
it
guy
to
doing
Matt
it.
Nagy last year a little bit, so there was that too. And I know they got Sammy Watkins, but I'm not expecting Sammy Watkins to be, boom, out of the gate, kind of exploding. I think what it's going to be, new quarterback. You know what? I have Tyreek Hill. I've got Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins will take the most time to gel with Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill will take the second most time. I think Travis Kelce is going to turn into a safety blanket, and he is going to, not just a safety blanket that, dink and dunk, a safety blanket of, you know what, I'm Patrick Mahomes. I can throw it down the field.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to be the main target still, and because of that, rack up fantasy points.
I do wonder with Patrick Mahomes if he's going to be similar to what I was talking about with Josh Allen, the guy who's going to throw it down the field maybe a little too much, where he's going to choose not to go with the safety blanket and instead try and force it. Because he kind of does
I think his coaching would we say his coaching staff is better than Josh Allen, though? The Andy
100%.
Reid coaching staff than the Sean 100% staff?
That doesn't mean that in the moment he doesn't go back on instinct.
But there's that, but do you expect them to put him in situations play call wise? That'll be, we're going to put you in the best situations.
I think they're going to be better in that, but play calling, there's a reason why Andy Reid gave up play calling last year.
Because he forgets the run game.
And that's his
It's his little bugaboo.
That's his Achilles heel right there. And I'm not trying to harp on Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying that there's a reason why Travis Kelce is 4 instead of 2. It's because he's got a quarterback with near zero experience in the NFL. So it's just one reservation for me to say, maybe Travis Kelce doesn't have a 1,000-yard season this year. Maybe instead it's an 800-yard season, which he's had about half of his career. So it was not that unrealistic to expect something like that.
And I mean, the thing that we look into here is I know that, like we said, Matt Nagy was there. And I know that in the one game, I know it's a one-game sample size.
We're kind of underestimating potential Alex Smith influence for Travis Kelce, too, of being that dink and dunk kind of guy.
Well, there's also this, and I'll say this. Out of the one game that Mahomes played, I know it was his first start, and it was a meaningless game.
Yeah.
Let's be completely honest. The Broncos weren't playing for anything, and the Chiefs were just making sure no one got hurt before the playoffs. Albert Wilson was the leading receiver. He was a wide receiver, though. 10 receptions, 147 yards. The next guy, and this is the part you can put in with the tight end, only 3 receptions, but Demetrius Harris got 73 yards on those 3 receptions. So I wonder if it's going to be, Tyreek Hill might get most of the receptions, most of the targets, but Travis Kelce has those 5 catches for 120 yards with Mahomes, where it's he's got, for PPR, Travis Kelce might be a little bit more undervalued because he's not getting as many receptions. Yeah. But in a normal league, he's getting yards for days, if not touchdowns
and
for
that's
days.
a big thing about Travis Kelce, too. He's a guy who will get double-digit targets.
Yes.
He's a guy who will get that. Now, that's with Alex Smith. What I'm saying is I don't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to be for him.
And that small sample size is without Travis Kelce, without Tyreek Hill, with Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, we really got to see what it's going to be. I don't think there's any worry, though. Maybe a little bit for people, but I don't really worry about Travis Kelce dropping off.
I'm not calling it worry. I'm just saying he goes from second best tight end in my personal rankings to 4th best tight end.
Which you're still saying that margin is small between
That is a tiny margin between what is Zach Ertz, Jimmy Graham, Travis Kelce.
Well, you mentioned him. What about the guy you did have at 3, Jimmy Graham, now with the Green Bay Packers?
So Jimmy Graham is one of those interesting ones where we talked about it earlier in the podcast of the Seattle days were not what we expected. He did have that 900-plus yard season, but he also had a 500 and a 600. It's not those, 13 and 1,200 yard seasons where he said, I'm a pass catcher, not a tight end.
But now he's got a quarterback equal, if not greater, than Drew Brees.
Exactly. He's not necessarily, in the season, Drew Brees is probably going to throw for more yards, at least traditionally, than Aaron Rodgers will. But Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for days. and he's going to throw to Jimmy Graham, a 6'7" target.
He doesn't have
He's gonna
Jordy
love it.
Nelson anymore.
Nope. He's going to love having Jimmy Graham out there. I think this is a nice resurgence for Jimmy Graham being with Green Bay. It's unfortunate because you're a Vikings fan. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. We are not looking forward to this. But
My defense will handle it. We'll just injure Aaron Rodgers again, right?
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
I'm not promoting a bounty gate.
I was going to say, spoken like a true
That is a joke. I
New
do not
Orleans
hope that
Saints
Aaron
fan.
Rodgers gets injured. I'm just saying, I hate the Saints for that. That's, ugh. But I mean, here's the thing I'm looking at. Like Jimmy Graham, I could see why people have him in the top 5. I have an 8 because it's the Trey Burton effect. I'm going to call it. It's the let me see what you're going to do, because the thing with Aaron Rodgers that I said earlier is he's going to spread the ball around. And I know that there were some people last week that were like, what? You've got Devonta Adams in your top 10? What are you, crazy? That's also a thing. Devonta Adams is your number 1 receiver. Randall Cobb could be out of town at the end of or after the season, next offseason. Will Jimmy Graham assert himself as the 1 or 2, or will Aaron Rodgers just, hey, I'm going to spread the ball around. I'm not going to target just one guy like Jimmy Graham.
I'm fully expecting this to be Jimmy Graham for the Saints and basically being the number 1 target for Aaron Rodgers instead of Drew Brees. That's completely what I expect. And you think about it with, sure, you're going to run into some good linebacking units with Minnesota, with Chicago, but Jimmy Graham's that guy who doesn't have to sit in the middle. He doesn't have to be a safety blanket. He can be essentially a wide receiver who happens to be a monster to cover. Jimmy Graham and Rob Gronkowski were looked at as a revolution in the NFL at one point. Now injuries have kind of held one of them back a little bit, and Jimmy Graham's career took a little bit of a downfall before having a little bit of inconsistency. But really, for me, Jimmy Graham and Aaron Rodgers is going to be an amazing connection, and it's the kind of thing that he needs. Having lost Jordy Nelson, he needs a pure weapon that he can just rely on every time.
Here's what I'm going to ask you. Here's a follow-up question, what I'm thinking about. So Joe Philbin, ex-head coach of the Miami Dolphins, was the offensive coordinator last year with the Colts. He is now the offensive coordinator with the Green Bay Packers. Here's the question I have. Because Jimmy Graham's not the only tight end on this roster, they've got Mercedes Lewis. They also have Lance Kendricks.
Yeah.
Could we see this team, because of, especially at wide receiver, to me it's Adams, Cobb, Allison, everyone else, Equimania, St. Brown, I expect to make a jump, and it be them 4 are the main receivers. Do we see them use all 3 of these tight ends in different variations, kind of like what Philbin did with the Colts, which, hey, I've got Jack Doyle, I've got the other tight ends as well, and I'm going to mix it up to where it's not just one tight end each and every time and the same guy in Jimmy Graham? Or do they just go, fuck it, it's Jimmy Graham, and he's going to be our main, like, he's obviously number 1 on the depth chart, but he's going to be our main guy, and these other 2, we're just going to not get into the offense as much as some people may think.
Yeah, I personally think that when I'm looking at Jimmy Graham, and part of the reason I have him so high is I'm not looking at him as the tight end. I'm honestly thinking Jimmy Graham is their number 1 wide receiver, their number 1 pass catcher in Green Bay. I rank him above anybody else who's going to possibly touch the ball in Green Bay. And the thing to think about with Joe Philbin, when he was with the Green Bay Packers, their offense was top 10 in points scored and total yards every single year he was there. He was there for 4 years. That's a big deal. So you're going back to that 2009, 2010, 2011. You're going back to that Aaron Rodgers. That Aaron Rodgers, especially when you look at that 2011, 45 touchdowns, 4,600 yards. This is a guy who will be throwing the ball a lot. They had a better running game in 2011 than they probably have now. I'm not really sure how I feel about Green Bay's running game right now. But Jimmy Graham is something they did not have in 2011.
And I'm going to correct myself. I'm thinking 2 years ago for the Colts. So 2 years ago, they had Jack Doyle as the main guy, Dwayne Allen as the second guy, 75, 52 receptions each. Last year, the main receiver for the tight ends was Jack Doyle, where T.Y. Hilton had 109 receptions, Jack Doyle had 108. So I'm going to kind of take that back and kind of flip it to where, if anything, maybe Devonta Adams, I don't know. Maybe it's like split up Devonta Adams 70-something, Randall Cobb, Gmo, and then Jimmy Graham at least 100 targets. Do you think he gets under over 100 targets for Jimmy Graham this year?
I say over.
Because, I mean, with Philbin last year with Jack Doyle, Jack Doyle had 108.
Yeah, I would say over 100 targets for Jimmy Graham because, once again, he's my number one receiving option that I have right now. And if you want to look at Adams, if you want to look at Cobb, I'm pulling it up right now just because I'm curious of their targets last year. I'm imagining that they were guys who were, let's see, targets 117 for Adams. Randall Cobb got himself a nice 91. So I think those guys
throw the ball.
Yep, they like to throw the ball. Those guys might come down a little bit, but Jimmy Graham, I think he's going to go back to those Saints days.
Last two guys I want to mention to close out this show is basically Kyle Rudolph, Delanie Walker. They were a tie for us at 6 and 7. We decided to put Kyle Rudolph just above Delanie Walker. Here's what I'm thinking. I'll take Kyle Rudolph. You kind of start off with Delanie Walker.
Okay.
Here's the thing with Kyle Rudolph and why I had Delanie Walker ahead of him. Delanie Walker's the main tight end in Tennessee. Marcus Mariota, Delanie Walker, we've seen that connection. It's a solid connection. Marcus Mariota really has trust in his tight end. Kyle Rudolph. Yes, Kirk Cousins comes in. Yes, Kirk Cousins did like throwing to Jordan Reed. However, this team has weapons for days. We have Stephon Diggs. We have Thielen, or as Sean likes to say, hooked on a Thielen. We also have the running backs like Dalvin Cook coming back. I wonder if Kyle Rudolph, and the reason why I have him out of my top 5 is basically, or why I have him at 9 basically, is I wonder if, yes, he'll be if you have him as your starting tight end, he'll do good things for you. But I wonder if, he's got a better quarterback, but that quarterback has so many quality weapons to use that he's not just going to single in on Kyle Rudolph every single play. So that's why I have Kyle Rudolph lower and Delanie Walker higher, because the usage might be a little bit more for a Delanie Walker with not having as many weapons in Tennessee as the Vikings have in Minnesota.
Yeah, I definitely think that Tennessee is kind of an interesting one to think about. You know, this team with Marcus Mariota, they're a better rushing team than they are a passing team in recent years, and the defense has just kind of been okay. They're a very middle-of-the-road type of team. Delanie Walker's a solid option for Marcus Mariota. He does trust him. He does rely on him. But Marcus Mariota's had some big, significant injuries in the past, and I'm concerned about whether or not that starts to slow him down. The team is not as good without him. You also have some new coaches that are going to change some things here. Hopefully for the better, because offensively they were not that well coached last year. Kyle Rudolph, to me, it really comes down to, yes, I know there's more weapons, but the fact still is going to remain for me. You have a guy who has a proven, Kirk Cousins has proven that he likes to throw to tight ends. That has to raise up Kyle Rudolph's stock.
So let me ask you this. I'm going to cut you off and ask you this. So the Titans last year out of targets, Delanie Walker led the team with 111. No one's arguing that he's going to probably be the most targeted receiver in Tennessee again. For the Vikings, I'm going to give you I'll give you 3 options because Jerick McKinnon's no longer there. I'll give you the 4 guys. You split up the targets. I'll tell you what they were last year. Adam Thielen had 142. Stephon Diggs had 95. Rudolph had 81. And then although it'll be Dalvin Cook, last year it was McKinnon, obviously. McKinnon had 81. So with those 4, Cook, Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph, how would you expect the targets to be split up, knowing that's what they were last year?
Well, I think that it's I understand your question, but I don't think it's really relevant because you're looking at Case Keenum as a starting quarterback compared to Kirk Cousins.
Then how do you
You're
think
moving down the field a lot fast. Well, let me answer.
Okay.
You're moving down the field a lot faster, a lot easier because this is a guy who can sling it. Kirk Cousins,
hopefully a lot easier.
yeah, he'll sling it where Case Keenum, I don't think he even tried to sling it. You do have Dalvin Cook who's coming back. So you have a great option running the ball, sure. But all of this is just going to open up your receiving options, obviously. So sure, Kyle Rudolph might not be getting 111 or 112, whatever it was that Delaney Walker got, but he will have great opportunities. He's going to have some very long receptions as well because, like I said, suddenly we're a team that's moving the ball forward. If you're Vikings, if you are the Vikings, he's a guy who will get a lot of touchdowns as well, a lot more touchdowns than Delaney Walker is going to get. And I think that's a significant addition as well.
Then are you expecting, because different quarterbacks, last year, Case Keenum, the main guy, and it shows, I'm going to Adam Thielen. Yeah. Adam Thielen's my number one. If I need a guy, I'm going to Thielen. Do you expect that to change them with, hey, it's Kirk Cousins, to where, you know what, everyone's going to get a fair share of receptions, but you know what? Kyle Rudolph was the guy he went to more.
Yeah, I think he's going to be going to what he's comfortable with. When you're a new quarterback going to a new team, you try and find something that feels familiar, something that feels similar. And that's going to be, let me throw it to Jordan Reed, who is now Kyle Rudolph. That's going to be a thing. He's going to love having Thielen. He's going to love having Diggs. He's going to love having a quality running back in Dalvin Cook. He's going to love all of that, and he's going to spread it around a little bit more. Without a doubt, if these guys both play 16 games, Delaney Walker gets more targets. Delaney Walker probably gets more receptions than Kyle Rudolph does. I just think that Kyle Rudolph,
of the team and Marcus Mariota,
the other options there, I just think that Kyle Rudolph's going to do probably more than Delaney Walker is going to do with them.
The thing, and maybe this is just me being me, but I look at, like, I know this isn't a tight end, but it plays into Tennessee. Corey Davis. 65 targets last year.
Really kind of underperforming for us.
Do we does he
and we were excited about him.
I wonder how many targets is he going to get this year? He was a guy they took really high in that first round to be a receiver.
But new coaching staff, they might try and be like, no, we can make it work. We can correct this. We can have this happen.
And the Titans, I'm interested also to see how LaFleur brings in that kind of Ram style, or that Ram kind of thing that he did with the LA Rams last year. Any guys you think in this top 10 that we didn't mention that we should give some love to?
Only thing I want to really add, of course, Greg Olsen, I hope he comes back from injury just fine. But the thing I think is interesting with is Rob Gronkowski, because there's been a lot of just talk about him.
Trade, injury,
retirement, exactly. And now with him and Tom Brady both being like, no, we don't need to come to OTAs. I don't know. He's still my surefire number one. There's no doubt about it. If I had the opportunity to draft him, I'm thrilled about it. But just part of me sits there and just kind of wonders, because sometimes people draft Rob Gronkowski really high, and then he gets hurt. He doesn't play, and people kind of regret it. Is there a little bit of that for Gronkowski? Probably not. You're still going to be thrilled if you get him. He's still your number one. You got to go for him. But a lot of things going on, a lot of talk with Rob Gronkowski.
Here's the thing with Rob Gronkowski for me when it comes to fantasy. It's basically, for me, don't feel like I need to get Rob Gronkowski as my main tight end. If you get any of these guys in the top 10, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine with one of them. I'll be happy. One guy that I was going to bring up right here at the end, as you guys are looking at our logo for sure, is that Evan Ingram. I expect an increase this year because of the Pat Shurmur kind of hire and his influence on that offense now. Plus having Saquon on that team, having a run option for
having
once.
wide receivers actually healthy.
Having wide receivers actually healthy as well. And I mean, he's one guy I'm really excited to see what happens in New York, because I kind of feel like he could be one of the biggest benefactors from the changes that are going on in New York. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below about all of our top tight ends, 1 through 30 for our fantasy football rankings. Also, let us know what you think about Pat's topic, coming in, talking a little Chicago Bears with us. Are we overhyping them? Maybe so, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Little housekeeping here at the end. Check out patreon.com/Most Podcast, especially if you want to be like Pat and join a podcast. Also, go check out our store, that link down below in the description. Get yourself an MVP t-shirt. MostValuablePodcast.com is where you catch MVP each and every day. And last but not least, make sure to go to Apple Podcasts and iTunes, give the Onside Kick a 5-star rating, and write a little review telling everyone why they should check it out. Want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Mark and I will be back next week to go over our top defenses, all 32 defenses, more like the quarterback style, top 32 defenses in fantasy football. We will see you then, but as always, have a good day, everybody.